Well, hello there. Have you missed me? A very warm welcome to you all, and with some outstanding rugby on its way, I'm sure. No better time for a catch-up, is there? Now then, I'll be answering your Emirates fans questions today, as well as providing you with some potential record-breaking moments in this year's Six Nations. But first of all, let's have a look at some of the laws that the referees will be clamping down on. Now, as we speak, referees are getting together to discuss the way that some areas of the game need to be refereed, what to clamp down on. So let's have a look at a couple of laws that referees are going to pay a particularly close attention to in the next coming months. And the first law to have a look at is the caterpillar ruck. Now, this is a bane for many of you. Well, when a player is not clearly bound onto the ruck and the ball is at the back, then the ball will be out. Also as well, what they will be looking out for to make sure that the defending team does not pull players off his feet in the ruck in order to put players on the ground to make the ball out. If you pull players down off their feet in that ruck, it does not mean that the ball will be out, even though there may not be a body or leg over the ball. So expect to see that area of the game quickened up a bit. Let's look at the second law they're going to be clamping down on, and that is clear release of the assist tackler. Now, the referees will be looking to make sure that the assist tackler shows clear release. No elbows on the ground, no elbows on the bodies, a clear release with elbows upwards before they try and gather for that ball to jackal it over. So, no leaning on the ground, supporting your body weight. Well, there we are, just a couple of laws for you to look out for, and maybe to get your upper hand on some discussions with your mates when you were talking about the games. Now then, let's go on to the Emirates fans questions. Right then, first up, Matt Hazy. You should get this man back on the field. The sheep can sort themselves out for a while. Are you talking about me there, Matt? Because I haven't got any sheep. Cows? Now, I know there's a lot of sheep in Wales, but there's none here with me in Pontevedra. MT Abrahams asks, I've been wondering about this. Players should be on their feet to play the ball. Correct. Thing I've seen many times, a player gets tackled to the ground and a ruck is formed. The tackled player then pops the ball up to one of the arriving players. How is passing not considered playing the ball? Good point. Now, first of all, when a player is tackled to the ground, the ruck is not formed until there is one player from each side formed over the both of them on the ground. So that's when the ruck is formed. Now, when you're tackled, you can place or play the ball in any direction as long as you don't pass it forward. So you get tackled, you can place the ball backwards, you can pop the ball off the floor, or you can turn and place the ball on the goal line to try and score a try. But it has to be done immediately. So as long as you hit the deck and then within the next second or so, you pass it off the floor, that will deem to be immediately, so it's play on. So it's not deemed as playing the ball after the ruck is formed or after the tackle has been too long. Chris Butler asks, I'd really like to know what Nigel Owens thinks about the new tackle height laws. Let's get one thing clear first of all. Anything that is going to make the game better, the game safer, then we all should be supporting and encouraging that, without it changing the complete fabric of the game. Because if it changes the complete fabric of the game, then what you don't have is a game of rugby as we know it. So what we need, I think, is to look at the tackle height. We certainly need to get players tackling lower. There is no doubt about that. Where that height is what the big discussion is about. So I think what we need is a lot of evidence, a lot of trialling to make sure that it is something that is making the game safer, and also something that won't change the game that we love. But the key message here for me is, for all players out there, don't risk doing those upright tackles. Whether it's in law or not, get the tackles lower. That's the important thing. Now, a lot of you have been asking me on social media in the last couple of days, in the Connaught game, how come a player was penalised for picking the ball up when the ball left his teammate, but the ball was travelling backwards and not forward. Now, this is a little law that a lot of people don't know. Even some referees don't know this law sometimes. Forget if the ball goes forward or goes backwards. The law of the offside is a teammate or a player who is in front of a teammate who last played the ball is offside unless he retires behind the player who last played the ball, or the last player who played the ball passes him and puts him onside, or a teammate who was onside passes him to put him onside. So in this instance you've all been discussing, the player goes to gather the ball goes to the ground, travels backwards, but the player then goes backwards. So the player now is behind the ball, and a teammate comes up and picks the ball up from an offside position. For that player to be able to play that ball, he should have gone back behind that teammate, or that teammate should have moved in front of him. So in this instance, which is confusing a lot of people, it's not the ball that puts you onside, it's the player. And that's why the referee, correctly so, blew up and gave a penalty for playing the ball in an offside position. Well, that's it for your Emirates fans questions. Now let's move on to the next segment, which is Nigel's Fact Pack. I've got to practice saying that. Now, everybody likes a good fact while watching a game of rugby, and with the Six Nations coming up and the World Cup on the horizons, I am going to give you some much needed context. Now let's get started with this one. France are on a 13-game unbeaten run. If they were to win the Grand Slam, they would tie the record for the most consecutive games won by a nation. Now there are two nations who are actually tied at the moment. Do you know who they are? Fact number two, now then, do you know that the last nation to win 2 consecutive Grand Slams were France? And that was back in 1997 and 1998 in the old 5 nations. And I wonder, can they go back to back again? Fact number 3, last year Hamish Watson made 70 tackles without missing a single one. He has made 219 championship tackles since he last missed one. Fact number 4, Johnny Sexton will go to the top of the most points scored table if he scores just 27 points in the tournament. Owen Farrell is also in range as he is within 58 points. Oh, it's going to be interesting between those two, isn't it? Fact number 5, England completed a Grand Slam in 2003 and went on to win the World Cup. To date, it is the only time a Six Nations and a World Cup double has been achieved. Now then, for all you English fans out there, if you win the Grand Slam, oof, what do you think? Good chance for the World Cup? Well, we'll soon find out. It's been brilliant to catch up with you. Now, don't forget to flaunt your new rugby knowledge and facts with your mates while watching the games on the weekend. Enjoy the weekend of rugby, but don't forget to send in your Emirates fans questions as well. I'll be looking forward to seeing you all next week to start answering them.